Suffering in the library. A ramble about a tough topic in a very special place. The last 2 days have been spent in the library at the Our Lady of England Priory in Storrington, West Sussex. If you know me, this is as close to my happy place as it is possible to get. An old library filled with theology books, floor to ceiling, in an historic Christian building. Does it get any better than this? Rather embarrassingly, the father of the house found me taking photos of the books in the library, not once, but twice. "You really love these books," he said to me. "I don't have enough time to read them all, and I did not learn English properly in a school," he tells me. "I get by with my words, but I don't have grammar or anything." He's a Lebanese Christian who runs the Priory with his wife. They've only been in the UK just over 4 years. They're part of the Chemin Neuf community, who describe themselves as a Catholic community with an ecumenical vocation. They are a lovely couple, and they could not have made us feel more welcome. I was visiting as part of an activity day run by a local Catholic school. They were running some workshops and had put out the call to local youth workers who wanted to help out. So I joined them for 2 days to help lead workshops on the topic of where is God in suffering? It's a massive topic, and it's a challenge to help 13 to 14-year-olds fully engage with if they haven't yet been touched by suffering. But it was lots of fun. They were a good group of students. I ran 10 workshops over the 2 days with almost 200 young people taking part overall. Introducing them to some of the basic concepts involved and helping to point them in the right direction to find some answers. It's the sort of topic you could never hope to solve in a 30-minute workshop. There are people who are much smarter than me that spend their entire lives asking this question. But we all have to start somewhere, and it's good that they were starting to consider it seriously at their young age. It certainly gave me lots of opportunity to wrestle with the question of suffering myself, ironically in surroundings which are quite the opposite of my idea of suffering. Back in the beginning of March, I rambled about Psalm 23 and how this much-loved psalm doesn't make any sense without the context of suffering. Why else would the psalmist, David, find himself in the valley of the shadow of death, or eating a banquet in the presence of his enemies? This was one of the points I discussed with the groups over the past 2 days in the workshops. Christianity never hides from the reality of suffering. It not only acknowledges it, but it meets it head on. That doesn't mean the answers are easy, or even the answers I might want to hear all the time. But it does have answers. For David in Psalm 23 verse 4, he says he fears no evil because you are with me. He has a very simple answer for one of the most complex questions you can ask. David's confidence is not in his own ability to fight his way out of trouble or reason himself out of trouble. He doesn't think he can outsmart suffering or avoid it entirely. He chooses to do the hard thing in the moment, have faith in God. He says, "I will fear no evil, for you are with me." That's enough for David, and that's enough for me too. The other passage we visited with all the groups was the end of Matthew 7 with the wise and foolish builders. "Therefore, whoever hears these sayings of mine and does them, I will liken him to a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. But everyone who hears these sayings of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat that house, and it fell, and great was its fall." Matthew chapter 7, verses 24 to 27. This is such a well-known story as well. I used it because I hoped the students would already be familiar with it. Almost every children's Bible has a version of this story. The question I asked the students after reading it was, which house suffered? Depending on the group, depending on how deeply they thought about that. Everyone agreed that the house built on sand suffered. Those that thought about the question longer and harder realised that both houses suffered. In fact, their suffering is described in the same terms. The rain descended, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house. Both of them go through the storm. Both of them suffer. But one of them is able to persevere because of the foundations they have built their life on. What is the foundation? The teachings of Jesus himself. The parable doesn't say that because the rock was so high, that house was elevated above the weather system and miraculously avoided all the rain, floods and wind. No, they both go through the storm, but the house on the rock stood firm. Just like with Psalm 23, there is no hint that walking with God will enable you to bypass suffering, heartache or pain. We still walk through the valley of the shadow of death today. We still have things that try and make themselves big and insert themselves between us and our source of light, the sun and the sun. We can find ourselves in the darkest valley. We can find ourselves in the valley of the shadow of death. But I fear no evil, because you are with me. He is enough. I can't pretend to be able to answer the biggest questions of life, like where is God in suffering? But when I look at the cross, I'm absolutely certain that God isn't hiding away from suffering. He's with us in it. Jesus came to earth to live among us, suffer like us, and die for us. At Christmas, we see Jesus intentionally stepping towards the suffering, which is part of the human experience. In the garden, we see Jesus submitting to the will of the Father to willingly go to the cross for us. He is with us in and through our suffering, enabling us to join with the psalmist and say, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. John chapter 16, verse 33. Thanks for joining me in this ramble today. I hope that you found it helpful. If you know someone whom you think might find it interesting, why not send them a link? If you'd like to receive these rambles via email each week, you can subscribe for free and they'll be pinged out to you direct every Wednesday. I hope you can join me again next week for another ramble with my thoughts. Grace and peace.